Greetings, my fellow gorehounds, and Happy New Year. Welcome back to a blood-splattered vlog. My name is Count Jack. No. My name is the Horror Guru.
I'm Count Jackula.
He's Count Jackula. I'm the Horror Guru. We're off to a great start already.
He's the rapper. I'm the Fresh Prince. Yeah.
Well, we're going to be doing something a little differently today. We are going to be talking about my favorite horror movies of the year, my top 10 favorite horror movies of the year, with a sizable list of honorable mentions that we'll briefly touch on. And the reason why I'm doing this is because normally I don't make these videos. I used to way back in the day.
Yeah.
Like way back in the early days of the channel, but they always got like shit views. So I just eventually figured it wasn't worth it.
Well, yeah, because it turns out they're easy to write, but they're a lot of work to put together.
Especially the way I was making them back then. This video is going to be a lot more stripped down than the videos I was making back then with them, where I was making these I was putting footage of the movies in, and there was like an elaborate analysis, and I was scripting out my thoughts on the movies. Not doing that. This is just gonna be off the cuff. The editing's probably gonna be a lot more minimal compared to some of my other vlogs, and I'm just gonna try to get this out either at the last day of the year or the first day of the year, one of the two. You'll know which one it is when it hits your feed. So anyway, let us talk about my top 10 favorite horror movies of the year. Number 10. So the first one on the list, Together, directed by Michael Shanks. All right, so this movie I loved for a multitude of reasons. The first one being, I'm a huge body horror guy.
Yeah.
I love movies that have crazy amounts of body horror, and this movie definitely delivers on the body horror department. For those of you who didn't see our vlog on the movie is about a couple who move to a house in a new town, and they suddenly start becoming physically attracted to each other to a dangerous degree. They literally start to fuse together.
Yeah. There's a force that's trying to meld them together.
And essentially the movie is kind of an elaborate metaphor for relationship anxiety, for codependency, and for
relationship.
Yeah,
anxiety and codependency.
Yeah, that's kind of it. That's kind of really what it's about.
It's about how in a relationship you either accept that you are going to become these new people who are in this relationship together committedly, or not.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, any relationship you get into, the longer the relationship goes, the more intimate it goes, and the more commitment you make to that relationship, you're going to rub off on each other. You know? The two of you are going to be different people by the end of it.
Yeah.
And this is actually why a lot of relationships end up breaking up eventually, is because eventually that new person you become might not be, a person who still works with the person you're with. You know? So this movie's all about all that. The reason why it's probably lower on the list than some of the other movies is because as much as I love it, and this is just me getting really fucking nitpicky, in terms of body horror, most of the body horror in this movie is fucking awesome, but at the end of the movie, it does get a little too CGI heavy for my tastes.
Okay.
It's a mild criticism. It's a mild criticism, but compared to some of the other movies I'm going to talk about later that went all in on the practical, it just, it doesn't hit as hard.
Right. Look, we live in a the substance world.
Yes.
Where they push that really, really far. And the thing that I loved about that movie is when you got right down to it, the practical effects were great, but also looked janky, and they still 100% made it work.
Yep, I actually have on this list, including the honorable mentions, at least 2 movies that I would describe as the substance butt.
Yes. Okay.
A substance alike. So we will talk about those. All right, so moving on to number 9, Bring Her Back, the Australian horror movie by the Filippo brothers.
Wow, I'm
the
surprised
YouTubers.
it's higher on the list.
This just goes to show how good some of the other movies on the list are.
Yeah. Okay.
We had a banger year for horror movies. So Bring Her Back is about a couple of orphans who, after their father died, they're taken in by a woman who proceeds to abuse them and gaslight them for 2 hours, basically. With an ulterior motive that we can't really talk about without spoiling the movie, because that's kind of the reveal in the movie.
Yeah. This movie is a heavy spoiler movie.
It is one of the feel-bad movies of the year, one of the contenders for feel-bad movies of the year. It's very dark, it's very depressing, it's very heavy. I mean, obviously you're dealing with child abuse, so that's just... Child abuse is already hard to watch as it is.
Yeah.
You add on to that the directions this movie goes, it just gets heavier and heavier. A lot of this movie is also a meditation on grief.
Yeah.
The kids themselves are dealing with the loss of their father, and you find out that the woman in question is also dealing with the loss of someone as well, which makes the whole thing even messier. But I just really love this movie. I thought it was an awesome follow-up to Talk to Me, the Filippo brothers' other movie.
Yeah, I think it's actually a great improvement over Talk to Me.
I would actually agree. I think if you were to put the two movies together, I'd probably pick Bring Her Back every time, even though I love Talk to Me.
Yeah.
Talk to Me was fun, but this movie makes me believe that the Filippo brothers are like true artists.
Yes.
If that makes sense. It's a little pretentious of me to say, but it's a more pretentious movie comparatively.
Oh, yeah. It's an artier film.
Yes, absolutely. The only reason why this one is so low on the list is, again, I have some bangers coming up on this list, so let's go and move on to number 8, Weapons by Zach Kreger of Barbarian fame. So this movie is a wild ride. The movie is about a bunch of kids that go missing on this one night. There is a woman, a teacher, who is falsely accused of witchcraft and having taken the kids. And there is a father who is searching desperately for his kid. And these storylines all end up colliding in a wildly insane and utterly hilarious finale.
Well, don't forget the meth head.
That's right, the meth head. The meth head is running around and dealing with
character, the meth head.
My favorite character, by the way. I love that character. Him and the gay principal are probably my two favorite characters.
Oh, yeah. Probably by Benedict Wong. Yeah.
Absolutely. This movie is a trip. It is a movie where at any given turn, I wasn't sure where it was going to go. It truly surprised me with the directions it took. It has a lot of thematic similarities to some other movies I loved this year, like Eddington, which wasn't really a horror movie, so it's not on this list. But it's another movie that's kind of dealing with small town America and how small town America is awful at dealing with tragedies.
Yes.
And pointing the blame and going on witch hunts. Now, the theme of witch hunts are a little shaky in the movie, which is why it's a little lower on the list, because I do feel like its messaging there is a little confusing at times.
Well, it shouldn't get into spoilers.
Shouldn't get into spoilers. There's a little bit of a shaky messaging in this movie, but overall, I had such a blast with it. The movie is hilarious. The twists I didn't necessarily see coming, and I just think overall a solid sophomore film from Zach Kreger.
Yeah, and it's that climax, man.
Yes,
that climax is amazing.
Actually, I believe it might be his junior film, because I think Miss March might have been his actual first movie, but he doesn't want to talk about that. So, alrighty then. Moving on to number 7. Now, this is the first movie I'm mentioning on this list that kind of sits in that weird zone where I don't know if it's truly a horror movie or if it belongs on the non-horror movie list.
Oh.
But I decided that it's enough of a thriller that I'm going to throw it on the horror movie list.
Okay.
And that is Companion from director Drew Hancock.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
You see what I mean?
I see what you mean about that movie. Yeah.
Companion is about a couple that are on a vacation retreat to a cabin in the woods with their friends, and it turns out that the woman in the couple is actually a android, a machine, an AI companion.
Yeah, an AI companion.
And the movie just unravels from there. There's a bunch of twists and turns. Once again, this is a movie where I didn't necessarily see where it was going at any given time, because the movie would always throw a curveball at you. And the script is just utterly hilarious. This is one of the most funny, like, non-straight up comedies that I saw this year. Now, the only reason why I'm a little shaky about whether or not it counts as a horror movie is because it does kind of take some genre turns throughout it. You know, obviously there's the sci-fi angle, there's the romance angle, but by the end of the movie, I guess I would make the argument that by the end of the movie, if nothing else, it is definitely a thriller.
It's definitely a thriller, yeah.
You know, where it goes, and it is dealing with a particular type of monster, but not like a literal monster, like a metaphorical monster.
Yeah,
so to
there
speak.
are some torture scenes in it.
There are some torture scenes, true. That's 100%.
Yeah, but it's a little weird. It's kind of like you would ask the same questions, genre questions of like Ex Machina.
Yes.
You know.
Sure, 100%. And I don't even know if Ex Machina I would have landed on the horror one with that. I probably would have landed more on like the sci-fi
yeah,
than anything. This movie definitely has the sci-fi too, but the sci-fi angle is actually kind of like less the point of the movie than what happens later in the movie.
Yeah.
Because ultimately this movie is more about misogyny.
Yes.
Than it's about technology. So
yeah, absolutely.
So I really enjoyed this movie. It's probably one of the most fun movies on this list. We have some downers.
This one ends on a high note.
This one ends on a high note. This one is a good for her movie, so to speak. So yeah, Companion, great movie. All right, let us move on to number 6. Speaking of downers, The Ugly Stepsister from Emil Christine Blichfeld. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I probably didn't.
Bluka.
So The Ugly Stepsister is a twist on the Cinderella story. It is set in the Middle Ages in a fantasy realm. It is about the ugly stepsister of Cinderella and the horrific body horror she endures at the hands of her mother, and she also subjects herself to in order to adhere to the standards being set not only by the kingdom, but also by her mother, and also by her jealousy towards her much more beautiful sister, Cinderella.
Yeah.
This is probably the first movie on this list I would say is the substance but Cinderella.
But yeah, yes.
The whole movie is about body image issues. The whole movie is about the pressure we put on women, the way we try to control women's bodies and whatnot.
Yeah, and how it cripples them.
And also how it causes them to do even more damage to themselves. Like, we start the process as society, but then they finish the process in their own heads.
Yeah.
And just completely wreck themselves.
And the movie definitely says that the best thing you can do is be the girl that society completely ignores.
Yep. And the movie goes as far as to have like medieval plastic surgery in the movie
that was my favorite part.
That she undergoes in order to like adhere to the standards of the kingdom, because she wants to impress the prince too, but the prince is, a shallow asshole.
Yeah.
So, you have to adhere to his physical standards. And her sister is utterly beautiful. She is also beautiful in my opinion. But she can't see it because she's not conventionally attractive.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that she starts out, she's very good looking, but they want her to be perfect.
Yes.
And that's where the problem comes in.
And so she like smashes her nose. Eats that tapeworm thing, which is fucking gnarly. This movie is phenomenal, but it is a hard watch.
It's gross.
It's gross. And much like the other movie we mentioned, this is probably another contender for feel bad movie of the year.
Yes. Yeah, because it's the stepsister. It doesn't end well.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is an utterly phenomenal movie, and it's also a Shudder movie, I believe. So you can watch it on Shudder if you want.
Yeah.
So let us move on to The Monkey by Osgood Perkins. So The Monkey is a Stephen King adaptation based on the short story The Monkey, about a kid who discovers a monkey that when it, in the short story, it claps.
Yeah.
But
it's got cymbals.
In the movie adaptation, it's got a little drum. And when it does its drum, a random person around him will die. It is basically a little monkey of death. It's kind of like Final Destination with a monkey. Kind of how it operates.
Very much how this movie operates.
But the movie kind of takes the source material and kind of elevates it into this much larger story about grief and death. And
trying to control death.
And not really living your life because you're too afraid of death.
Yeah.
The through line of this movie is kind of summed up by the mom early on in the movie. Life sucks, so let's dance.
Yeah.
It's something like that. I forget the exact wording, but it was something to that effect.
Yeah.
And that kind of like sums up the whole mood of the movie. But even with that kind of like downer kind of vibe, the movie is utterly a dark comedy. It is hilarious. I laughed my ass off with this movie, and I had a blast. Osgood Perkins, you could tell, was grinning from ear to ear throughout the movie.
And for me, it's all about that last scene.
That's
mwah.
Perfect. Alrighty then. So let's move on to number 4, Bugonia. Bugonia by Yorgos Lanthimos. So Bugonia is about a factory worker who kidnaps his CEO boss, convinced that she is an alien from outer space set on destroying the planet. It goes in wild and crazy directions. It is technically a remake of a Korean film called Save the Green Planet, and it does keep some things from that thing, but it also kind of has its own vibe going on.
Yeah, it's a good example of a movie that uses the same plot but has a very different vibe.
But what's interesting about it is it's remaking a movie from like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And everything that takes from that movie is still completely relevant
Still
now.
absolutely relevant, yeah.
Because the movie is about a multitude of things. It's obviously about climate change and the way we're fucking over the planet, but it's also about the way the rich treat the poor and how the poor are kind of fucked over, and it kind of leads the poor down these awful rabbit holes like conspiracy theories and whatnot just to make sense of this world, when in reality it's just kind of the rich hanging over them and controlling everything. It's got a lot of stuff going on in this movie. But what makes this movie so high on my list is I just love how insane it gets.
Yes.
And I love that the movie ends on a fucked up punchline that somewhat undermines some of the themes of the movie, but even though it does that, I still found myself laughing my ass off and enjoying the hell out of it. So it's a bit of a messy movie, but it's kind of messy by design, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree.
But much like Weapons, I do feel like it kind of undermines its own themes a little bit, but it doesn't take away from the movie completely for me. So,
yeah,
that is Bugonia. I enjoyed this movie. It's insane. Go check it out. Also, Jesse Plemons deserves a fucking Oscar for this role. It's definitely his best performance I've seen him in anything, and he's usually great. So, also, this is another movie where I wasn't sure if it was horror or not, and I just kind of landed on it. It's at least enough of a thriller that it belongs here.
Yeah. Well, it's also hard to answer that question without spoiling it.
Exactly. You know? That's the other thing. If you just go by the log line, you're like, okay, well, it's a thriller, but is it a horror? By the time you get to the end of the movie, it does kind of become a horror movie.
Yeah.
I would argue.
Yeah.
It's also a sci-fi movie, don't get me wrong, with the whole, like, is she or is she not an alien?
Yeah.
But horror definitely is part of the mix in this dark comedy, sci-fi, horror, thriller, torture movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on. Anyway, let us move on to the next movie on the list. Number 3, and I'm actually surprised this ended up at number 3. I thought it would be higher. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Which is a phenomenal adaptation of Frankenstein. Guillermo del Toro takes the Frankenstein story and makes it his own. He makes it a story about a conversation between a father, a son, and the son's son. It is about generational trauma and generational abuse. That's essentially what his version of Frankenstein's about, and it is gorgeous. It's got some of my favorite looking cinematography in the entire year. It is a weirdly hopeful adaptation of Frankenstein.
It is.
Not all Frankenstein movies end on a hopeful note. This one actually weirdly does, even though it actually didn't necessarily change a lot of the events, though it did change at least one important event.
Well, yeah.
You know, but this movie is just beautiful. Guillermo del Toro finally got to make his movie 20 years in the making, and he got to make it on his terms, the way he wanted. Big budget, gothic spectacle. Jacob Elordi is a great Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah,
they're both Frankenstein. It's his son in this movie.
The
subtext is text. It's his son.
Yeah, the creature.
So he's also a Frankenstein, I love this movie.
Yeah, a lot of people, I saw that a lot of people hated this movie. I have no idea what they're talking about. Even as someone who loves the original novel of Frankenstein, there was nothing here that I saw that was so great a departure that it broke the themes of the story.
Well, yeah, a lot of the people I've seen that really don't like this movie tend to fall into one main camp, and that's people who are mad at the differences and the changes from the book.
Yeah, well, then you probably hate that original Frankenstein movie.
That's exactly my point. Every single adaptation of Frankenstein has kind of changed it in some way.
It has.
The original Frankenstein movie, that's the iconic one that everyone loves from Universal, changes a lot.
Oh, God does it.
It's a very different fucking movie than the book is. I don't understand why it's so important for this one to be a 1-to-1 adaptation, because I don't know. The Branagh one is probably the one you want. It's the closest to being 1-to-1 comparatively.
Yeah, but that movie's got a lot of problems.
It does have a lot of problems. Yeah. You're not wrong. You know, but like Branagh has that tendency when he adapts something to kind of do more of a one-to-one thing.
Yeah.
But he kind of adds his own like gloss and camp to it.
Yeah, definitely. You know, he's Shakespearean.
But for me personally, I didn't go into this movie to watch Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I've seen a million Frankenstein adaptations, and I've read that book. I went into this movie to see Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, and that's what I got.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so I was happy with that. So yeah, that's number 3. And moving on to number 2.
All right, let's see which one was number 2, which one was number 1.
The Long Walk, directed by Francis Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
The second Stephen King adaptation on this list. The Long Walk is an adaptation of the first book he ever wrote and then eventually released under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. The Long Walk is a story about a dystopian future in which America is under a military dictatorship that every year will do this lottery thing where young people can compete in this long walk where you start walking and you don't stop until there's only one person still walking.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, they'll get any of their wishes granted and whatever that may be. It's basically a way to control people, kind of like the Hunger Games or any of those kind of like dystopian like worlds where there's like a death game involved. Because if you fall in the long walk, if you slow down in the long walk, you are shot dead by the military.
Yeah.
So it is a death march, essentially. The book was originally written to essentially be an allegory for the Vietnam War and that entire time period in America. He kind of wrote kind of a dystopian horror story, kind of looking in the direction that America was going. He kind of did the same thing when he made The Running Man.
Yeah.
Which is actually a movie that I would put on my favorite non-horror movie list.
Yeah.
It was a banger year for fucking Stephen King. I also fucking loved Life of Chuck, so... Welcome to Derry.
Welcome to Derry.
If I was making a list of TV shows, it would be on there because the show is great. So it's been a great year.
Yeah,
for
there's
Stephen
some
King.
horror things that aren't on here, I noticed, but it's because they're TV shows, not movies.
Yes. I mean, Alien Earth is great, and so was Welcome to Derry, and so was Stranger Things.
Yeah.
But those are all TV shows.
Yeah.
So, not movies.
Those ain't movies.
Absolutely. So yeah, The Long Walk, I fucking love this movie. I've been waiting for this adaptation for years. I remember being online in the late 90s, early 2000s, back when Frank Darabont was going to make it.
Oh, man.
And that ended up falling through, and it had various different people get involved over the years, and it always just kind of collapsed under its own weight. And finally, Francis Lawrence of I Am Legend and Constantine fame finally brought it to life. And he brought it to life pretty much the way I would have loved to see it.
Well, I think this is his best movie.
Absolutely. It is his best movie, 100%. It's also his least stylish movie, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah,
like, it's got a style.
That feels very on purpose, though.
Exactly.
You know?
Like his
very sparse.
His visual style is usually very kind of comic booky. It's usually very grand. It's got like bright colors and like high contrast and all that stuff. This movie is a lot more stripped down. It feels a lot more like a 70s movie.
Yeah, it's a lot more subdued.
Toned down colors, more handheld at times, which kind of fits the tone of the movie.
Yeah.
You know, the movie is kind of like these kids going to war for the first time, except the war is a walk.
Yeah.
I suppose some people might argue it's not strictly a horror movie, but I would argue it is. I would argue this is the same way I would argue that, in my opinion, Battle Royale is also a horror movie.
There's just so much fucking horrific murder.
If nothing else, it's definitely a thriller, so suck it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a beautiful movie. It's a hard movie. Also possibly a feel-bad movie of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Though it's less feel-bad than the book for one specific change it makes, but you'll have to see the movie to see that. Alrighty then. So, number 1, Sinners by Ryan Coogler.
Yeah, I was like, all right, it hasn't come on the list yet. It's got to be number 1.
Gotta be fucking number 1. Sinners, Ryan Coogler's horror musical thing that's kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn, but about Jim Crow racism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And cultural appropriation via vampirism. I love this movie. This movie is wild. I enjoy it. I love its genre shifts. I love its tone shifts. I love all the characters. I love how even though it's a very serious movie, it's also very funny at times.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I just think this movie was just a perfect time at the movies. Everything this movie did worked, and it did a ton of unconventional things. Much like From Dusk Till Dawn, one of the things that people usually have a problem with from Dusk Till Dawn is genre shifting halfway through the movie.
Yeah, and this movie does that, but you don't notice.
You don't notice. It's so seamless.
Yeah.
You know, and it does shit like that, like breaks these very specific rules that you're usually not supposed to do in movies, and it does it like tap dancing over them like the fucking dancing vampires.
Yeah.
With like flawless precision.
So, in many ways, like, yeah, fucking literally.
You know, and the fact that like you get towards like the halfway point of this movie and it suddenly turns into a random musical.
Yeah.
You know, that's freaking wild. Sinners is the perfect horror movie of the year. It is culturally relevant to things we're dealing with today. It is a blast. It is fun. I also like it's probably one of the sexiest movies.
Oh yeah. There's a pussy eating scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it does a lot. It does. Man, it does so much.
It is about two brothers who open up a juke joint in the Deep South, only for their juke joint to be attacked by vampires. That's
a basic setup.
It's the basic setup of the movie. There's a lot of twists and surprises in there, but that's the basic setup of the movie. Probably the main thing it's about, when you get right down to it, is cultural appropriation. The vampires.
It's cultural appropriation versus cultural
appreciation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The vampires themselves are basically trying to take the culture because they weren't allowed in, and it makes them mad, so they just tried to take it by force. A lot of people said it was a messy metaphor, but I actually...
No, it was a very clean one.
I mentioned with some earlier movies on this list that they're a little bit messier with their messaging and their kind of themes. I actually think this movie is perfectly clear.
Yeah.
I did not find this one messy at all. I thought this movie made its point 100% clear, especially when you get to the end of the movie, and it kind of shows you the two differing examples of the one that kind of gave up the culture and the one that kind of kept with the culture.
Yeah.
And even though on paper one of them lived the better life, the other one's more happy and satisfied with it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, he got what he was after.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And so it's like so
I thought you were going to bring up like the fact that at the end of the movie they basically do the like Whitey is the vampires. You know, which I mean, hey, I was on board with that the whole time.
Absolutely. Well, the funny part about it is that like this movie is great because like it takes that idea and like takes it a step further, right?
Yes.
You know? Because I've seen a couple other vampire movies do the vampires white people thing.
Yeah.
Like I love Vampires versus the Bronx. Vampires in that movie basically represent gentrification.
Gentrification, yeah.
You know, it's rich people coming in and buying up all the shop houses and then pushing out all the people that live there.
Yep.
You know, but they're also vampires, and so they're eating the people.
Yeah.
This movie does a similar thing, but with cultural appropriation. But it's also like very complex and layered about it. You know, like it goes into the fact that the vampire himself is Irish and not like a straight up like American as they would have thought back then.
Yeah.
He's also seen as kind of like an immigrant and an outsider. So he basically has to, in order to like fit in anywhere, force himself in. So it kind of becomes this little bit of mess, and he's willing to fucking basically throw the black folks to the fucking wolves so that he can get his piece.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, that's the assimilation deal.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. A deal that other characters make in the story, actually.
Yes.
So yeah, Sinners. Great movie. One of the best movies of the year, even if it wasn't on the top of my horror list. If I had a list of just any movie, it would still probably be number one, to be completely honest.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. And with that said, I actually do have some honorable mentions that we're just going to quickly run through. Honorable mention number one, Hard Eyes. Probably my favorite straight up horror comedy of the year. Valentine's Day slasher. The definitive Valentine's Day slasher, in my opinion. Best Wishes to All, Japanese horror movie. Weird as fuck.
I forgot that was this year.
Yeah, well, technically the movie came out in Japan in like 2022, I think.
But it was released here.
But it was released here this year, and wild movie, wild twists and turns. It is also a movie about capitalism, so a feel-bad movie about capitalism.
You feel bad about people feeling good by the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's a movie that has a happy ending for the character, but for the audience, it's utterly horrifying.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's Match, Tubi's Match.
Oh, yes.
You know, a great movie about love gone wrong, a Tinder date gone terribly, terribly wrong.
And a dick mutilating scene.
Yep. This movie, I've had a couple movies on this list where I've described them as the substance butt. This is barbarian butts.
Yeah.
Barbarian, but it's a Tinder date. And I'll just leave it at that. The body horror in this movie is mwah, great. We have this severely underrated Him, the sports horror movie that came out earlier this year. A lot of people were disappointed in it. I actually thought it was a phenomenal movie. I really enjoyed it. I liked how over the top and on the nose it was, which I think was the reason why people didn't like it, was because it was so over the top, it was so on the nose. But I'm fine with that.
But it was a movie about a horror movie about football.
Yes. The entire movie has the tone of a football commercial.
It does.
But it's an anti-commercial.
Yeah.
And I love that as someone who fucking hates football. So.
Yeah.
The next movie on the list is Dangerous Animals, an Australian horror movie about a man that feeds people to sharks. This movie I thought was a surprise little gem to me. It's a torture movie. We haven't gotten many of those this year. Maybe Bugonia might count.
But it's not, the torture's not the focus.
The torture's not the focus. Bugonia. Early 2000s torture style movie. You've got tourists getting picked up by a guy who's feeding them to an animal and torturing them. It's a messed up movie. What really makes this movie work for me the most, the guy who plays the serial killer is just a blast to watch.
Yes.
He is doing a very particular type of like shitty masculine guy thing that I just utterly found entertaining. And I also loved watching him kind of get his comeuppance over the course of the story.
Course. Like the whole movie hinges on you loving to hate him and him getting his comeuppance.
Yes, 100%. My favorite found footage movie of the year, Man Finds Tape.
Man Finds Tape.
One of 3 Lovecraftian found footage movies we saw this year, but this one to me is the cream of the crop.
It is the best.
This one's great. It is about a small town and a guy who finds a tape in his house, and then this leads to a fucking mystery that unravels and leads to Lovecraftian monsters, essentially. It's fucking wild. I don't want to spoil too much of the movie for you, but Man Finds Tape. Look it up. It's a blast. It's a gem. And because it's such a small indie movie, you may not have actually heard of it unless you saw our video on it earlier this year. So, all right. The next one is another substance butt movie, Grafted.
Oh, yeah.
Another Australian horror movie. I think technically it's like an Australian Chinese co-production or something like that. The movie is about a Chinese immigrant in Australia who is also a student of plastic surgery who basically uncovers a way to turn herself into other people via plastic surgery and then proceeds to use that for worse and worse means over the course of the story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interlocking things that happen in this movie, but basically it is another movie like The Substance where someone with body image issues starts dealing with their body image issues in a terrible, toxic way that gets worse and worse until their body completely degrades by the end of the story.
Yeah. Because, like, hey, mad science is always the answer.
Yep. Just like The Ugly Stepsister. The Ugly Stepsister made it to the final list because I just think it's a little bit of a better movie.
Oh, it's higher production quality.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
But this movie still does deliver. It does kind of have like a gnarly ending with full-on Cronenbergian body horror, and I dig that. Not on the level of The Substance. It's obviously did not have the budget of The Substance.
Yeah.
But they did a lot with the little they had. So the next one on the honorable mentions list is Death of a Unicorn, the A24 horror comedy starring Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega.
Yep.
This movie is about a father and daughter who are going to meet with the dad's boss in his rich mansion in the fucking woods, and they accidentally hit a unicorn, and from then on, a unicorn tries to kill them for the rest of the story for, hitting their kid.
Yeah.
It's basically the same premise as Exists, the movie where they hit Bigfoot's kid and then Bigfoot kills them for the rest of the movie.
Think of how much better it would be with a unicorn, but you don't have to because that movie exists.
This movie is a straight up monster movie, but it's also a movie that's also about how shitty pharmaceutical companies are.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked that it managed to work in that social commentary while still being a hilarious horror comedy and a monster movie on top of that.
Yeah.
None of the 3 elements of this movie, the social commentary, the monster movie, and the horror comedy, take away from each other. They all kind of complement each other.
They all blend kind of seamlessly into this beautiful whole.
Absolutely. And I just had a blast with the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. So, Death of a Unicorn. Check that out. The next one is my favorite folk horror movie of the year, FREWAKA.
Oh, FREWAKA, yes.
Yep. FREWAKA. It is a movie about a nurse who is going to take care of this little old lady in this house in the middle of this small town, only to discover that the little old lady's house is kind of under siege by fairy folk.
Fairy folk. Yep.
There's a lot of twists and turns in this movie. It's a very creepy movie. It's a very slow burn movie, but man, that ending delivers.
Yeah.
The mark of a good slow burn movie is how well they deliver in the final act. And this movie, more than any of the folk movies we watched this year, and we watched quite a few that were really good, this movie probably had my favorite ending out of all of them. FREWAKA is great. And the last one on the honorable mentions is another movie where I'm like, is it horror? Is it thriller? I don't know. Borderline. The movie with Samara Weaving.
Jesus, that was this year?
That was this year too.
Oh my God.
This movie is kind of a horror comedy / thriller / I don't know what to call it. The movie is about Samara Weaving plays a pop star whose home is under siege by a crazed superfan who's utterly obsessed with her and wants to marry her. That's the basic premise of the movie. The superfan is played by Jack Nicholson's son.
Yeah.
Who plays a amazingly unhinged performance in this movie. If nothing else, the reason to watch this movie is to watch his crazy performance.
Yeah, because you may think you know where this movie is going just by the description.
No.
You do not.
You
don't. This guy is way crazier than you realize.
Absolutely. What I love about this movie is the movie feels like a lot of like weird, quirky indie movies I loved in the 90s.
Yeah. It's a quirky indie 90s romance movie, but the romance is an unrequited love between a pop star and a fucking psychopath.
Yeah. Like, I feel like if this movie were made in the 90s, then you would have had Samara Weaving's part played by Madonna. And I just thought this movie was an underrated gem. I had a lot of fun with it. It's not a perfect movie, but like, I kind of like how weird and unhinged the movie is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So there you go. That was my top 10 plus 10 extra honorable mentions. So 20 movies in total. So if you're looking for movies to kick off the new year, if you haven't seen any of these movies, definitely pick one of them, go watch it and enjoy. And with that said, my fellow gorehounds,
well, you can find me here on YouTube every weeknight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I stream and we talk about all kinds of groovy things, horror movies being one of them, Satan being another, because I am a known Satanist and practitioner of the dark arts. And I'd love to see you come down and just hang out and find out what we're all about there. What about you?
Y'all know me. I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on various social media sites, but these days I primarily use Blue Sky, so follow me on there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified of our videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out our Patreon pages. And remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way, but we will certainly accept more. And given the current state of the American economy going into 2026, we could certainly use more. So if you've thought about contributing to our Patreon, please do so, because we
beg of you.
We've got rent to pay. And with that said, my fellow gorehounds, if you made it this far into the video, then I want you to comment below, and be sure to comment below using the hashtag Happy New Year. Use the hashtag Happy New Year. That way I know, that way Jack knows, that way the whole world knows that you reigned in the new year with 20 awesome fucking horror movies, which is the best way to reign in any year. With that said, my fellow gorehounds, peace out, and we'll catch y'all later.